Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani, and welcome back to this YouTube channel that takes on all kinds of issues related to narcissism and narcissistic relationships. It is my hope that this content helps you navigate this really difficult territory and make more sense of these really difficult and toxic relationships, situations, and people. Now we're going to talk back again about, remember narcissism and money? Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, let's take that on. And have you ever noticed, though, that when it comes to narcissism, money might actually be one of the most complicated topics? But, a lot of us think of how generous and grandiose narcissistic people are with money. Let's talk a little bit about stinginess. The funny thing about narcissistic personality is that it is not a unidimensional, one-way only construction. It can look different ways because there are so many subtypes of narcissism. And money brings out the worst of it. One of the most confusing things regarding money with people who have narcissistic personalities is how they go back and forth between being either really, really stingy and miserly to being really almost overly generous. Well, there's a reason for that, and so let's break some of that down. Let's start with the stinginess, right? That's what we were leading with. Being stingy or miserly is not the same as being fiscally prudent or careful. Being stingy, for example, is keeping things around long after they are useful just because you think like, I'm not throwing this out, I paid good money for it. It's about easily being able to afford to split the check, but then not being willing to pay this, the same amount because the narcissistic person or stingy person didn't have dessert. It's about fiercely enforcing the upper limits on an office holiday grab bag gift. It's about keeping track of how much money they spend each year on family birthday gifts and then reminding everyone how much they spent. It's about telling an elderly parent that, this year I think I may not give you a birthday gift because I had to chip in a little extra money for your wheelchair or your walker. It's gross. It's petty. It's small-minded, it's uncomfortable, and it is not done out of necessity, but out of a real mean-spiritedness. And you can see how the stuff of narcissism comes into play here. The lack of empathy, the entitlement, the low-grade paranoia, and the sense that people are always trying to take advantage of them. It's not about big ticket stuff that has real financial ramifications. And stinginess is often accompanied by rumination. They will track every cent and even keep these bizarre records. So for example, if there is a divorce or a will or an estate or a trust or even a friendship, be prepared that they would present someone with a bill for past anniversary gifts or childhood expenses or a dinner you had years ago just because they're mad. There is a meanness to stinginess, and it overlaps quite clearly with the meanness of the narcissistic personality. But what confuses the hell out of people is that sometimes this very same narcissist, and if not this one, others, can be very generous, almost grandiosely generous. Think love bombing, expensive gifts, big nights out. Narcissistic folks may throw down the credit card and pick up the check for a big group of people on dinner out or a bar tab. Everyone will clap and congratulate them. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, you're so generous. And you can see how much the narcissistic person loves that grandiose moment. But at the same time, if you watch really carefully, you can see it on their face. They love the grandiose moment and the show of it all. But there is a tiny resentment underneath the mask. It's primal. At a primitive level, they know they got the narcissistic supply, which relieves the tension because they always need it. But now we'll slowly start the nagging, ruminative doubt of they only like me because I paid for this big dinner, and I will guarantee you they will bring it up at some point in some future argument. Ugh, Your friends are such freeloaders. I'm sure they want me to come. They expect me to pick up the check. I picked it up that one time. They expected that. Or your family's a bunch of users and they're always just waiting for me to pay. Or, ugh, you're such a gold digger, always looking to me for money. Even when the reality was that everyone was not only fully ready to split the check, but really, really were pushing and trying to. But nope, the narcissist needed their grandiose moment. Remember the golden rule of narcissistic relationships. You can't win. As a general pattern, narcissistic personalities tend to be generous when it is public, when it will get them supply, when it will get them noticed. It's what we can call something called agentic generosity. It's a means to an end. It's something they do actively to get what they need. It's not in the spirit of generosity, the idea of like, I'm lucky enough to have, and it makes me happy to share what I do have. And they might even think like, gosh, everyone around this table has been really kind to me, and it's nice on this day to be able to do something nice. No, 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 no. For narcissistic people, everything's a transaction to get something, usually narcissistic supply, or to posture. Narcissists may use these episodes of generosity as a way to shame someone else. They'll toss down the card and say to someone at the table out loud in front of everyone, hey you, I know you're going through a tough time and I know that your job doesn't pay that well. Listen, it's really nice to be able to show you a high-end night out at a decent place instead of those usual dumps you go to. It's ew and it's gross, and it can feel humiliating and degrading for not only the people on the receiving end, but to anyone who's witnessing this. Now, because of the narcissistic tendency to feeling persecuted or victimized, if they feel that their generosity isn't getting enough gratitude, they will become sullen and glum and passive-aggressive. You almost wish they would tell you, how many thank yous do you want for this necklace, for this gift card, for this dinner? Because if you don't thank them right, or you don't thank them enough, they will experience a narcissistic injury and they will lash out. If others don't thank them enough, it's exactly the same. They will also, as I already said, they will often ruminate after they've been generous. This idea of, I'm being taken advantage of. These people are only coming because they want to drink my great wine from my collection or hang out in my nice house. Everybody always expects me to take care of them. Meanwhile, no one's expecting that. The narcissistic person just keeps doing it. They will whine endlessly about it, but it's a real catch-22 for people with narcissistic personalities because most narcissists struggle with being alone, even the vulnerable narcissists, because they need supply, so they can regulate themselves. And they like to dominate social interactions, so they will use money to control those interactions and control the narrative, and then resent the idea that people spend time with them because they spend money on them. And we could look at this in the certain kind of transactional relationships out there. There's definitely a certain breed of narcissistic person who consistently gets into transactional relationships with partners. Usually it's someone older who has the resources, finding someone much younger but who's considered very attractive or something like that. The younger partner is often there for the free ride and for the goodies. The older narcissistic person is aggravated because they want the attractive younger partner, but they resent how much they have to spend and want the younger partner to want them just because they're lovable. Good luck with that. It's not how transactional relationships work. But ultimately, the cardinal rule of narcissistic relationships, you can't win. Now, this whole stinginess thing you can see it happen in families where generosity and stinginess are used as a way to either keep people close or punish them. If you purchase the family members, they will then show up to holiday dinners and birthdays and other family events so that the family member who's got the money can hold court. But the generous, high-spending narcissist is aware that the reason that people are at the family dinner is for the money, and the narcissistic family members, especially parents, will often use money as a way to triangulate, manipulate, and play favorites. And then if a narcissistic family member spends money on someone and those people don't show up, they will feel very betrayed and let them know it. Now, over time, especially in a classically love bomb, devalue, discard cycle, the transition from generosity to miserliness can be seen. It will transition from gifts and nights out and vacations to lots of penny pinching and then accusations about you only being in it with them for the money. It may go from them consistently picking up the check, even if you offer to help out, to accusing you of using them at the end of the meal. So you might find yourself paying more and more for meals out, even meals that you cannot always afford, especially if there's a significant difference in how much money you earn compared to the narcissistic partner. It may manifest in them becoming punitive about household expenses, and the marked contrast will be striking. You might find that you went from going first class to Paris to hearing complaints about why do the kids need new clothes for school over the course of the relationship. And there is plenty of money to spend, and yet they're complaining. Remember, all relationships are transactional for narcissistic people. So it's about the narcissist spending money to get supply or love or adoration. And then when they finally kind of have that relationship nailed down or are no longer really interested in that person, then they no longer want to spend it, and then they feel used. So then they sort of slide into that stinginess territory. Money is such a complicated language to speak with a narcissistic person. It doesn't matter if they are a billionaire or if they are broke. It always raises issues. Their generosity is actually really just a way to control people, control the conversation, and a quick way to be perceived as a nice person. Their stinginess is a manifestation of their incapacity for empathy, intimacy, and it also reflects their chronically sort of just under the line paranoid sense that they are being taken advantage of. There is little middle ground, and as such, always beware a gift horse. With the narcissist, gifts always carry strings. Ask yourself if that gift is actually worth the cost. Thanks again.